Steve Schatz is the Assistant Superintendent for Strategic Reform. It's a new office in the Department of Education, and Steve's going to be talking about, well, I just want to make a comment that Yvonne and Christina are talking about ways that the data is more powerful now, that we can pull multiple sources together, give it to you in real time, and such. Steve's shop is working on in the Department of Education, and I'm going to talk about the balanced scorecard.
Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry I walked in late. So I'll talk a little bit about our strategic plan and how that really is the starting point for creating a balanced scorecard. So we passed the Board of Education and the Department of Education created a new strategic plan that was passed this past July. And in that strategic plan, it was a real clear vision of what we expect from our students and from our system. And so that strategic plan has 39 metrics, outcome measures, that we measure at the highest level of the organization, the board and the department level. Many of those measures are already collected. Some of them are collectible but not yet collected. And some of them we have yet to figure out a way to collect. So you can see, as Christina talked about the balanced scorecard, or her work with the longitudinal data system being a work in progress, certainly the balanced scorecard is as well. But I will say the purpose of a balanced scorecard is to at a glance see a snapshot of how we're doing in terms of getting to our strategic vision. It's not just a reporting mechanism for the Board of Education, but it's also a way in which we can see whether we're getting more kids prepared for college and careers. So our strategic plan is divided into 3 buckets. Goal 1, Goal 2, Goal 3. Goal 1 is student success, Goal 2 is staff success, and Goal 3 is system success. Thank you, I almost lost it. And I think we're much more developed with regards to Goal 1, which is all the metrics about how students are actually achieving. So Christina stole, which is fine, at least 80% of the thunder that I had, because I think the longitudinal data system, as we currently have it, is really the way in which we currently monitor our leading indicators of the balanced scorecard. So the balanced scorecard has a combination, I would say, of leading and lagging indicators. But as an SEA, LEA, or one district, we don't just want to wait till the end of the school year to monitor whether or not we've made progress or not. We want the longitudinal data system and the balanced scorecard to be something that can exist at a real macro level or a more micro level at a school. Christina's and David's shop have been very responsive to the field, because what we need, sorry, I was a school principal, I got to take a lead out of that. What the school principals need is information about how their kids are doing today. They don't want to wait. So our longitudinal data system always had that ability, but now that they have the strategic direction and the clarity of what the system is supposed to provide to educators, we actually can access this data in a way that I don't think any other state or district has done yet. So I just want to commend my colleagues over here, because that quarterly report, the one with all the colored pie graphs and all that stuff, that's really a breakthrough for our educators to be able to look instantaneously at how kids are performing in those various areas. Yeah, that's the one. It's especially useful, I would say, for our complex area superintendents who, some of them have up to 29 schools that they have to monitor and supervise. And so in the past they had to wait until the end of the school year to see how the schools did on their outcome metrics. Now you can sort of get a picture of the way things are going, both in terms of, and these are all research-based leading indicators that we know are predictive of success. Attendance, meaning grades. So, the complex area superintendent can do a scan of all their schools and figure out who's struggling and who's not, take some intervening action before the end of the school year to make an impact on those numbers. And the way we look at it is every single school, every one of our 255 schools, has a responsibility to do their part of that getting us to those strategic plan measures that are measured in our balanced scorecard. So this is the one that we shared quite a bit. This particular slide looks like Aloha Stadium, but it's really in the middle of it is our strategic plan measures. So we picked some measures that we thought were the most representative of whether or not we're getting our kids prepared for college and careers. So some of those are test score data, some of that is graduation rate, college going rate, 9th grade failure rate, because as you can imagine, how many kids, there's almost a direct correlation between the number of kids that fail 9th grade and the percentage of kids that don't graduate from high school. So if we're not paying attention to who's getting an F in first quarter of 9th grade, then we probably lost at least, a big chunk of them. And as Christina said, some of those kids that are getting Fs are exceeding proficiency on our state assessment. So it's actually not an academic issue, it may be something else. So again, more questions than answers, but unless we know the data, it's hard to even ask the right question. So what you'll see is in the middle is the strategic plan measures. The next concentric circle is the complex area, which is where our area superintendents supervise a cluster of schools that are a high school and the feeder pattern they're in. In other areas, you might consider this. In other states, this would be a district. But that's the way we're structured, is in complex areas. Those same measures are looked at by the complex area superintendent and his or her team. And then in the next concentric circle, you see it's school A, school B, school C, school D. Of course, there are way more. In some cases, that goes all the way to Z for some of our poor complex area superintendents. But everybody is responsible for achieving outcomes on the same metrics. And for the Department of Education, this is new. The idea that we would have a strategic plan that drives what metrics we deem important, that we would drive the planning and monitoring and implementation of those the strategies related to those metrics, all the way down to the school's plan, and that we would support, monitor, hold accountable for the same metrics, sort of up, down, side to side. And again, our vision is, and we'll have a version of our balanced scorecard in probably a few weeks that'll be launched. But our vision is that we'd actually have a state-level balanced scorecard, a complex area superintendent level balanced scorecard, and a school-level balanced scorecard, all on the same metrics and all housed within our data system.
Steve, can you just say something about pre-populating these academic financial plans and how they relate to?
Sure, I've been talking about that all day. Interestingly enough. So what we did,
tell people what has been done in the past in terms of goals of the plans and what they produce.
So, thank you, Tammi. Good point. No. I think in the past we've had, in the past maybe let's say 5 years ago, if we go back 5 years ago, we had a DOE strategic plan, then we had a BOE strategic plan, and then we had the complex area superintendent who developed their plan, and then we had a school plan, 255 school plans. There may or may not have been alignment, and then there was federal accountability over here. So you had a real potential, not always, but you had a potential for misalignment, not only in terms of the outcomes that we were measuring, but in terms of the strategies. So what we've done over the past year and a half or 2 years is started to utilize our unique SEA-LEA structure to ensure some degree of standardization. So what we did was we pre-populated the school's academic plans with 6 non-negotiable strategies that they have to do. We also pre-populated them with both baseline data and targets that they needed to hit, again, aligned with the strategic plan and balanced scorecard outcomes. So it takes away a little bit of the flexibility, but it ensures that we're all focused on the same things. And we don't have this argument about whether we're successful or not, because we're going to define success in the same way. We still have that argument, actually, but theoretically we will be defining success in the same way. So it sort of takes away this ability of folks to say, well, my school is good, I just don't measure my success the same way you do.
People, I'm sure, might have questions about that. But let's have David Wu talk a little bit about what's coming up here, about 3 different initiatives that are somewhat related to each other, but all aimed at improving the operations and efficiency the DOE in terms of support, staff support and systems of support, and these are all in process right now. You saw Christina's screenshots, and Yvonne folks actually have this up and running right now and in use, but Dave's going to talk about what's coming up.
Good afternoon, folks. As you've been listening to Yvonne, Christina, and Steve, and even Tammi talk, you've kind of noticed that a lot of the projects that we have, especially the ones that we've been talking about today, have a lot of technology content. And that's true of most of every initiative that we've been taking on in the past several years. With large projects based on federal grants for our LBS project, all the way down to our Race to Top grants. If you went through every project, you would see that likely greater than 2/3 of all the projects have some level of technology built into the project. And so that has put a lot of the onus on us from a delivery standpoint. The challenge for us is how do we align those efforts when we essentially have the same type of organization for technology that we have in the past. If you look at the lunch keynote that John Nixon delivered around a lot of old technology in different departments, and you also look at that little video that they showed at lunch about a lot of old infrastructure. We have all that old infrastructure in place, but the thing that they didn't mention also is a lot of the organizational structure is very old as well. So big focus of our IT has been trying to align our efforts around our strategic plan. And it's not just on staff success, student success, but also around systems of support. And we've been undergoing a major reorganization for the past year and a half. And that has culminated in really focusing on our customers. Our customers are our schools. And so we took our 25-year-old organization and decided we need to reinvent ourselves and look at how can we align ourselves to better service schools, and at the same time modernize, look at best practice out there in the industry. That culminated in a creation of several new branches within the Office of Information Technology Services. First and foremost, I think the most important of which is the creation of a branches devoted to nothing but customer service. So taking all the customer service resources within our organization, pulling them into one area and creating a community of practice around customer support, and also linking some of our balanced scorecard measures, as Steve was talking about, directly to customer support. That is going to form an organization which we've never had before, and it actually involves a lot of changing in the way that people think within the organization. A lot of folks have never seen a customer support center. They've never seen a support operations center, and we had to do things like actually take them on field trips, bring them to state-of-the-art support operations centers, not just in Hawaii, but actually on the mainland as well, and see how things operate. And it's been an eye-opening experience for many of them, and it's been a really big transformation process for our employees. I come from private sector. Reorganizations typically take a few months. In the department, it's in public sector. It was a big lesson learned about what it takes to do reorganization. And we're at the cusp of executing it right now. We have a superintendent level approval we've got for all the union consultations, and we're about ready to pull the trigger. But it's a big step. We're also creating liaisons for every single complex area that's going to serve basically as an IT manager for resources within that complex area of schools. We have a lot of technology reform that's happening as well. I'll speak to that in our second panel. But we're basically replacing our entire technology infrastructure from a networking perspective, just within the schools, as well as between the schools. And we're leveraging some federal programs to do it. It's a massive operation. It actually exceeds the size of our entire Race to Top grant in terms of the amount of investment that we're putting into it. It's an over $75 million investment we're making across the entire state to make this happen. one of the things we have up there, and this also in the works, is a single sign-on project. A single sign-on project currently encompasses 5 of our major applications, including launching the database system, our learning management system, which we'll talk about in the next session, and our student enrollment system, and our financial reporting system. The project is ongoing. We will eventually roll this project, the single sign-on project, out to about 20 of our most used applications, including our student information systems. For those of you who are not familiar with the single sign-on system, imagine all the passwords you have to remember on a day-to-day basis. And somebody write them on pieces of paper in the back of your books or on business cards. Single sign-on allows you to log into any of the applications and systems that you use on a normal daily basis with one password. And that one password gets you into all the applications at the same time. There's no need to re-enter your password multiple times. Click on the application, it brings up the application, and you're already signed in. So it's something that schools have been asking for many, many years, and we're really proud that it was achieved in this year. So that's a major undertaking for the department. But the other thing that was mentioned, both by Sunny as well by John Nixon, was that IT needs to be a lever for change. And so we've tried to get in front of all the major technology changes, on all the business changes, and we're trying to take a leadership role in a lot of them. Introducing systems of support for different folks, aligning ourselves around our customer support in the field, and actually introducing and suggesting changes to the business, which we think are ways that we can help improve productivity. Examples of that are our converged network infrastructure project, where we're trying to basically rebuild networks. We're also looking at providing input into how we can introduce 21st century technology to schools, and talking to other states about how to best deploy that. And we'll talk about that in the next session as well. So that's all I have for now.
Okay, great. We've been talking about single sign-on for a while. I don't actually have access to all these DOE systems, but I'm told this is going to be a great thing, because not only do you not have to remember your password, I mean, I guess what David's, I just remember one, but also it's trying to integrate the user experience, so not just providing the customer support, but making sure it's more user-friendly than it was before, so people actually use it. Okay, we have gone through all the panels. We have about a little over 5 minutes left, so hopefully we can get through a few questions at least here, and then I believe these slides are going to be posted, and you can come up during the break and talk to any one of the panelists as well. Anybody have any questions about either the technology aspect, the implementation, or the actual program that is supported by the technology we discussed today?
This might be covered in the next session, but obviously everything's evolving in education. I was just kind of curious on what you guys' thought on the one-to-one learning initiatives that are going on throughout the country, and also the anytime, anywhere type of learning.
So that's actually, we will be covered a lot in the next session. Okay. If you can
I'll just
hold some of the questions. I guess what I want to say about it right now is that we know about the issue. We've been working very actively on it. We've been learning from their states. But I think fundamentally, learning is about, one-to-one technology is really about giving our students the skills that they need to succeed in modern society. It's not necessarily about student achievement, because it's about just giving them basic skills that they need to succeed. You'll notice that in some cases we are linking a lot of these things to achievement, and we are linking them to academic standards. And it's part of the overall solution. But there are lots of dependencies in this as well. Funding is one, systems of support infrastructure to be able to support this, and also structuring the right kind of arrangement with any solution that we have to be successful in the schools.
There's at least 2 discussions about that in the next panel. Other questions?
This is kind of for Christina, I think. Is there any plan in LDS to be able to eventually have a cost per child, a specific child, for education? Every now and then I'll get a call from a researcher that wants to know how much does it cost us to educate a child at X school. And just last week I got a call from a researcher that says I have 20 students or 20 children who are in some kind of a program that's funded by a grant. And he wants to know how much we're spending right now to educate those specific 20 children. Is that something that we might be going towards?
We could eventually. It really is a matter of priorities for development and whether the data are collected and in a database or whether they're collected on a spreadsheet, paper, pencil. So it's all building that, but primarily it's related to leadership priorities about what should be developed within the longitudinal data system right now. There are more ideas than there are time and staffing.
And I think part of our long-term plans are to expose some of this functionality to the public. And I know that Christina probably don't want to talk too much about it, but it's definitely, I think, in our plan to expose some of this. Whether that type of a metric gets into there is going to be a question of what our priorities are from a strategic plan perspective. But I think it's we do want to be as open and transparent as possible about things that we can share.
That's a bit of a perfect lead-in to our second statewide longitudinal grant, which we received in 2012, which is to develop a preschool to workforce longitudinal data system, which will take certain data from the K-12 longitudinal data system and match it to data from post-secondary, from workforce, preschool. And those will be particularly useful to people who are interested in transitions between those different areas and tracking are we creating our own workforce or what is happening with the people who are local, go through our local systems. That does have a public-facing port, and because it will get into workforce data, there's quite a likelihood that there could be some financial data coming into it.
Actually, that's one of the questions that I was going to ask. Does any of the success metrics that you have in place now include post-secondary school surveys? Building upon what you just mentioned.
Well, there are, you're more the policy person on that.
So yes, there's a couple different ways that we collect it. One is there's a group called the National Student Clearinghouse, which collects data on post-secondary enrollment in the first semester after kids graduate. So we get that data, which includes about 96% of institutions, right? Kids,
Institutions and students.
96%. It's 96% of kids in institutions national. The other thing is because because the University of Hawaii system, both the 4 years and 2 years are all part of one system. We actually have good data on not only enrollment in the 4-year and 2-year schools, which we share with our high schools and all of our schools and area superintendents, but also the percentage of kids requiring remediation when they enter our post-secondary institutions. So we have probably, again, in a lot of ways we're further ahead than most states and most places because we're one SEA, LEA, and I would argue in the post-sec area we have an advantage over other places because our state system is one system, including our community colleges. So data can be shared across side to side.
So I'm making a shameless pitch here for the College and Career Readiness Indicators report, which has some of the data that you're asking about. We track there's a published report by high school that shows a comparison of high school graduates from that school and statewide about college graduation, high school graduation rates, college going rates, college remediation rates, that kind of data, looking at high school outcomes. And I guess, thinking about how things are evolving with the strategic plan, not only are we reporting the data, it's in the strategic plan in terms of monitoring, it's also being rolled into accountability measures for schools in our proposed No Child Left Behind waiver, is like an alternative to No Child Left Behind that we're seeking from the feds, and is also in high school principals' evaluations. So there's a lot going on in terms of making sure that what's happening in the strategic plan at the statewide level also cascades all the way down to the classroom and students. Okay. Anybody have one last question before we let you out for the break?
So just to tie in with that, is there plans to help students get into the university system after you graduate, with the data sharing, transcripts?
What a great question, because our next session talks exactly about that. Angela Jackson, wave your hand, Angela, in case you're not coming back for the next session. Angela will talk about it. There's a new college and career access portal. This is the technology part, not the entire program part, because there's a bigger program around this, but helping students to facilitate their college and career search. Okay, sorry, Angela, I'm going to do the preview for you. Facilitate interest surveys, college and career search information, online application to UH, transcript, informal transcript transfer as well. And Angela has lots of screenshots, and we'll tell you about that project in the next session. Okay, well, thank you all for spending time with us. Come back in 10, I guess, at 3:10 if you want to hear about the College and Career Access Portal, about the one-to-one laptops and curriculum materials, or some of the other initiatives going on around using technology in the classroom for teaching and learning. Thank you.